This is a project called the EggLathe, and what a lathe does is it turns the object that you're going to be working with on a rotational axis, and then you use tools on it. Now the tools in this case are pens and not cutting tools, although I suppose you could put something in there and do some cutting, but I've got this set up so that it's about the right speed for pens and for eggs. And I've done some eggs. These are free-range eggs from my neighbor, and so they come in a couple different flavors. And I've also got some plastic eggs, which are good for doing some tests on. And so here's one example, and they came out pretty good. These are leftover from a previous Easter where for some reason they were numbered. And there's another one. Not too crazy about the way this one came out. I added the green after the fact. And this one here taught a lesson of be careful with your eggs because they are fragile. And this one was kind of interesting because what I did was I put the bands on it and then I rotated it a little bit, made a line in each of the different colors, and so that way that one came. This one I think was the first one of today's session. It came out alright. Kind of fun. So the way that the EggLathe works is there's a motor over here, and that motor is connected to a gearbox, and that gearbox in turn is connected to a pen barrel, which is also connected to the grippy part of a pen. And then the egg is held by another grippy part of a pen. And then this is another part of that same pen. This motor here isn't connected electrically to anything. It's just being used as a bearing. And so the grippy part of the pen is zip tied onto this part of the pen. And then what holds the motor shaft is the center of the ink cartridge, and so that's how all that's built. The parts are laser cut. This is an early version of it. I made a few changes in it, and this is the side. And originally I thought I had enough between all of these parts and the sides to make two, but it turned out that I needed two of these on each end for stability and to keep it so that the sides stayed parallel. And so I ended up with enough to make one with a couple of sides left over. I wasn't sure exactly what the size of it was going to be, so I made a bunch of slots and gave myself room to be able to adjust the size for different size eggs. You could do other things too, Christmas ornaments or spheres or basically anything you can fit in there that'll be able to be held between these two grippy things. I tried a whole bunch of different things to hold the egg, and it turns out that holding an egg is not a simple matter. You have to hold it enough that it doesn't fall, but not too much that it cracks the egg. And so basically, it's a little battery pack that I found that had a switch on it, and if you flip the power on, then this motor over here turns the gearbox, which then turns this grippy side, and this is just floating. It's not actually being turned. It's just being used as the bearing. And so right now you can see that the egg is turning pretty well. It's a little bit off center, and if I press on it too hard, it'll probably get more off center. And so there, I've got a line and it's starting to move, so I'm going to turn it off, and I'm going to adjust it so that it stays back where I want, so it doesn't fall out. And so now the lines on each end are not going to be parallel, but I will have some lines. And that'll be nice. And I'll put a line in the center too. So if this were a cutting tool, I'd be cutting a groove. But since it's a pen, I'm drawing a line. Now it looks like it's slipping a little bit again, so I'm going to turn it off. And so in a future version of this, or an adjusted version of this, I'd definitely do some work to make the gripping of the egg a little bit more consistent. So I'm going to turn that back on again, and then I'm going to see if I can get, there we go, I'm going to try and follow that. Okay. And that's probably not the most elegant line. Let's see if I can get it a little bit better. Okay, and it is definitely slipping in there, so I'm going to pull that out. Put that back where it belongs. And for this part, actually I'm going to go to this part. It's a little bit easier for me to reach here. And the black pen was working better, so. And so that gives a little bit more, and then I'm going to